creatives, it's Claire. For some reason Facebook isn't giving me the flip option, so you will have to deal with my posters being back to front. Now let me just check my sound's all okay, because Facebook doesn't tell me that either, and I just want to make sure you can hear me and see me. So if you do join live and you have questions about JobKeeper or you have questions about finance, let me know and we will answer them. So sound is working, that's excellent. Yeah, JobKeeper. So what do you need to know? The first thing you need to know is the changes are official from the 28th of September. And the rates are changing. So the first rate is $1,200 a fortnight, and for people working over 20 hours a week. Now, if you do have people that are part-time, but I'm presuming you're not because you're a sole trader. If you are part-time in your business, there is a whole thing on analysing if you're sometimes part-time and other times not part-time, and yeah, it gets pretty confusing pretty quickly. Then it goes down again from the fortnights commencing in January to $1,000 for people that are full-time in their business. So that's the first important change, is that the rate is changing from $1,500 a fortnight to $1,200 and then down to $1,000. The second really important thing, there's lots of important things in fact, is that if you haven't qualified already, you can still qualify. So if your business has only been affected in, say, September or October, you can still qualify, maybe not October, for the payments. So if you haven't had it already but your business is now impacted, you can now start claiming it. You can start immediately, or you can start in the first fortnights in October. The third thing, and this is the one that's probably going to catch a few people, is that the previous way you assessed was either on actual numbers or on forecast numbers. So if you anticipated, based on some presumed evidence, that your business was going to decline but hadn't experienced that decline yet, you could register for the scheme and then you could start participating. So there wasn't this emphasis on actual information. So that has changed now, or will change on the 28th, to actual information. So you really do need to be updating your bookkeeping, keeping up to date with your finances, so you have that accurate actual information. So eligibility for October onwards is based on your actual bookkeeping numbers to the end of September, and that's for the quarter. So your quarter July to September needs to have experienced a 30% decline in comparison to last year to qualify for that October to December extension. So you can't forecast, there's no prediction, this has to be based on numbers. Now, therefore, your numbers need to be up to date and accurate, as always, really. That's not necessarily new, because your numbers, in my opinion, should always be up to date and should always be accurate, because otherwise, what would be the point? Sorry, entertaining myself here. So that's the third important change, is that now if you're if you were impacted or you forecast to be impacted, and say your last 3 months, so what will be the last 3 months at the end of September, hasn't experienced the required decline, 30% for businesses under the bazillion dollar mark. I can't even remember what that number is because it was so far away for any of my clients, to be honest. And I don't deal with charities, so you know, your applicable percentage decrease, There's so many exceptions when it comes to this stuff. If you haven't been impacted in the July to September quarter as you expected, you haven't experienced that 30% decline, to make you eligible for the October to December quarter, and I am seeing this with a few people, you can still be eligible for the January to March quarter if you experience the 30% decline in the quarter October to December. And I think this is probably going to happen with a few of the handmade businesses that I work with, because Christmas is our busy time. You know, people are doing their Christmas shopping. Like, I'm not guaranteeing it. I was asking yesterday about what people think is gonna happen over Christmas. Do you think you're gonna make a similar amount of sales? They're just gonna be more online. Are you doing markets? Are you doing events? Like, I know they're kind of restricted. Are you looking at other avenues to sell? Are you doing more wholesale? So I'm not saying there's a guarantee, but if you're kind of not set up online and you're not looking at all those alternatives, and you were very much an in-person business and that in-person business has changed, then you may still qualify for that January to March extension because you didn't have the same Christmas period. And really, that Christmas shopping is October, November, December. That's when we're like, maybe not every handmade business, but lots of us, particularly if you're selling things like gifts, you know, huge, big difference in that seasonal fluctuation for most of the handmade businesses I know. Maybe not if you sell winter jumpers, because we're here in summer in Australia, so I do remember a lady telling me she was busier at winter and she didn't really do anything at Christmas because she sells winter jumpers. Anyway, that's getting off track. Let's recap where we're at so far, because I know this is really very confusing. So the rate is changing from the October fortnights, $1,200, from the January fortnights, $1,000, if you're working over 20 hours in your business. Same for sole traders, partnerships, and regular businesses, companies as well. You have to be using your actual bookkeeping financial information, no more predictions. There's a second one, I forgot already. You can qualify for the January fortnights onwards, even if you don't qualify for the October fortnights onwards. You don't have to reapply if you're already in the system, but you can now join the system if your business is experiencing that decline in the July to September periods. And I think that is all I wanted to share. Nobody's asked me any questions, nobody's here live, so I may just wrap it up and leave it there. If you do have questions about JobKeeper, I will do my best to answer them and to help you. If your situation is quite complicated, I always advise you to get a tax accountant to help you. That is what they are here for. They know all the ins and outs in detail, or they should. That's their job. That's what you pay them for. But yeah, my message really... Oh, there is one more thing. I was working with somebody and they had reported zero in the period where it turned out when we went back and did their bookkeeping, they hadn't actually earned zero. There was a really, couple of sales, maybe one sale, maybe two sales, whatever it is. I don't care if it was one sale or 1,000 sales. It was natural human error, confusion, everything's up in the air thing. So they'd reported zero, thinking their business was closed because it had been, but it actually turned out it wasn't, because there was an online sale happened or whatever. My advice is to just call the ATO, tell them that you made a mistake in your reporting, because they're very understanding when it comes to making mistakes. Like, I've gone back months, years sometimes, making corrections on previous GST submissions, sort of thing. You made a mistake, that's completely normal and completely human, so call them and tell them that you made that mistake in your reporting, because that is the only way it will get corrected. You can't go back in your JobKeeper reporting and correct previous periods. Once you submitted it, it is done, and you should keep a copy as well, because you can't actually access your previous submissions. Once you've done it, it's gone. So that's, you know, information for all of us. Call them and have them correct it with you so that they have the right information. Like, I'm not saying they're going to check. There is no penalty at this point, even for claiming it if it turned out you weren't eligible, because we were using forecasts and predictions, so you can't penalise somebody for making a forecast that turned out to be wrong, really. But going forward, it is tightening up. It is on those actual numbers, so make sure you're up to date with your bookkeeping. Now, if you want help with that, don't forget I have the live training on Wednesday, so 23rd, where we're talking about doing all things finance. And I know that sounds like a lot, but we really can build you a plan, and that's what we're going to do live, so that you can get that done in under an hour a week. For most businesses, I feel like a little star condition there, for most businesses. And we use tools, we use documents, we use guides to really shorten that memory recall, that learning, that how did I do that thing again that I did 3 months ago. What we're really looking at is shortening that, making sure that you have that list of all the things you need to do, because once you have that in front of you, you'd be surprised how much quicker it is you can get through it, because you know exactly what needs to be done. I also will be sharing a heap of tips generally on how you can make your bookkeeping faster and generally easier, but there's a little bit of work often with making something faster at the beginning that will then make it faster and easier at the same time. So I will update the video description to include that in there if you want to sign up and join me live, and obviously I will be there to help you with your plan and help you make your bookkeeping faster, and you can ask me questions there. If you can't join live, sign up anyway, and I will make sure to send a recording to your inbox so you can watch it at your leisure. That's it. Happy Friday. Hope you have something exciting planned for the weekend. We're going to pick up the van. It's been at the mechanic, and it's not good news because he's not been able to identify what the problem is. So we have a bit of investigating to do, and driving around and seeing when the problems happen, which I'm not really looking forward to. But we have NRMA, and we're probably not going to drive that far from the mechanics to start with. So we will see how that pans out. Maybe some trips to Bunnings. The joys. I will be back next week where we're doing installment number 3 on using operating documents to streamline your business. And we're going to be talking about those things beyond bookkeeping, because it's not just bookkeeping, and that's what the webinar will cover as well. So until then, have a good weekend.